can you just please tell us what is a mutual UFO network or MUFON, and how is this related to you and to your work?
Sure. So the Mutual UFO Network is the largest civilian-run UFO investigatory organization in the world, and it's actually where I started as an investigator. Boy, now I'm trying to do some quick math in my head because it's been so long, but probably what's 16, 15 or 16 years ago when I first started like really getting into in investigating this stuff. Of course, I'd had a lifelong interest due to my experiences, but it really wasn't until my late 20s that I decided to actually, move forward with with being a part of this field and really involving myself. And so um, I started my career, so to speak, in weirdness as a field investigator for MUFON, investigating UFO sightings in the state of Wisconsin, where I live. And it the organization itself relies, almost exclusively on eyewitness reports from people who are self reporting to MUFON. And then your job as a field investigator, of course, is to get these reports and make contact with people and speak to them about their experiences, and then try to find a prosaic explanation for them if you can. And if you cannot, then of course it remains unexplained. And so that's MUFON in a nutshell. I mean, it's a big enough organization that has gained enough popularity, I think, in recent years, for there to be a lot to talk about besides that, of course. But that's basically it. And so I volunteered as a field investigator with them for several years before deciding to go off on my own and investigate things on my own and investigate them sort of my way. And once everything started with the Lake Michigan sightings, then of course MUFON was involved with that as well. And it was probably pretty convenient for me to have had experience with that organization before when it came to actually having to deal with them from the outside. Then I had a certain perspective, I think, that helped me work with them, in a way that allowed for a sort of mutual professional respect, I think.
Yeah, that's a cool story. I have to ask you a question that I know some people are interested to learn, and I've read this also in your book, and I even watched it on one podcast that is ran by two Australians who are talking about strange phenomena all the time, and they mentioned Chicago Mothman sightings, and they also mentioned this controversy. But I'm thankful that you also mentioned in your book how MUFON websites, when they start getting first uh, Lake Michigan or Chicago Mothman sightings, they supposedly came for the same IP address. And then people would assume the same, like this Australian podcast, oh, this is one person faking, putting fake names, just sharing different stories, trying to push their agenda out. But then you come up with the explanation that this could be based on the fact if different people are using the same internet provider. So I was just thinking if you can please explain this controversy maybe in a minute. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. And I think the word a controversy might oversell it somewhat. It's really just a disagreement, I think, on the quality of certain evidence. I mean, first and foremost, those first three MUFON cases, they weren't able to investigate those very deeply at all anyway. And that's just the nature of this field. Sometimes, I remember speaking to Sam Moranto. He's the state director for Illinois, for MUFON, and he told me, like they had limited email contact with these people, but they were never able to get anybody on the phone or anything. And so regardless of anything else, like those three cases by themselves aren't terribly credible just because of the limited contact that was had with these witnesses anyway. But yeah, I mean, then he told me that they had traced the IP addresses, and they had come up, two of the three, I think, had the same IP address. And then he thought then that meant that it must have been sent by the same person. And so I looked into it because I'm not a tech guy, so I have to rely on the work of actual experts who know about this stuff. And so I looked into it, and it turns out, since I want to say 2016, 2017, somewhere right around there, before these reports came in, every major email provider had taken steps to obfuscate people's IP addresses. So it used to be when you looked at in email, you would be able to find the actual IP address of the person who sent it. But that hasn't been the case since before these sightings actually started coming in. So now, if you are trying to find somebody's IP address through their email that they've sent, then the best you're going to do is find the last server that email went through. So, like the last email, like whatever email they happen to be using. And so it's not much of a stretch for me to think if there were a couple of people in the same area of Chicago, who were using the same email provider that happened to email MUFON about these sightings, that they could be, they could have the IP addresses traced back to the same server, which was the last server that these emails happened to bounce through. I don't think that's crazy. But fundamentally, it doesn't even make the sightings all that much more credible to consider that, considering that there was so much limited contact anyway. And so it's always been kind of funny to me that people have kind of obsessed over details like that, when those sightings, they're not very good sightings, and we have so many better sightings with actual people who have gone on the record, who have been willing to put themselves out there, put their names on the record, get in front of cameras, and talk about their sightings. That it almost seems like some people, in their determination to debunk things, are just concentrating on details in this investigation that are not important. They're not fruitful avenues for us to explore, because they don't take us anywhere interesting, right?